magic word. Here in the secret kindergarten, the world's best show for kids is starting. The Secret Kindergarten Radio Show. Use your ears and your imagination. We're going to play, we're having fun. The Magic Secret Kindergarten on the Revolution Radio Station.
Hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Gino from the Secret Kindergarten, and today here in New Zealand, it's Sunday, the 31st of March. And today's Words of Wisdom by Manly P. Hall go a little something like this. The law of cause and effect is like how day always follows night. How the tides always come in and out, and how things always stay the same through time. I'm going to play you a story. And this story is called The Bear's Bad Bargain.
The Bear's Bad Bargain by Flora Annie Steele. Once upon a time, a very old woodman lived with his very old wife in a tiny hut close to the orchard of a very rich man, so close that the boughs of a pear tree hung right over the cottage yard. Now it was agreed between the rich man and the woodman that if any of the fruit fell into the yard, the old couple were to be allowed to eat it. So you may imagine with what hungry eyes they watched the pears ripening, and prayed for a storm of wind or a flock of flying foxes or anything that would cause the fruit to fall. But nothing came, and the old wife, who was a grumbling, scolding old thing, declared they would infallibly become beggars. So she took to giving her husband nothing but dry bread to eat, and insisted on his working harder than ever, till the poor soul got quite thin, and all because the pears would not fall down. At last the woodman turned round and declared he would not work more unless his wife gave him khichdi for his dinner. So with a very bad grace the old woman took some rice and pulse, some butter and spices, and began to cook a savoury khichdi. What an appetizing smell it had, to be sure! The woodman was for gobbling it up as soon as ever it was ready. "No, no," cried the greedy old wife, "not till you have brought me in another load of wood. And mind, it is a good one. You must work for your dinner." So the old man set off to the forest and began to hack and to hew with such a will that he soon had quite a large bundle, and with every faggot he cut he seemed to smell the savoury khichdi and think of the feast that was coming. Just then a bear came swinging by with its great black nose tilted in the air and its little keen eyes peering about, for bears, though good enough fellows on the whole, are just dreadfully inquisitive. "Peace be with you, friend," said the bear, "and what may you be going to do with that remarkably large bundle of wood?" "It is for my wife," returned the woodman. "The fact is," he added confidentially, smacking his lips, "she has made such a khichdi for dinner, and if I bring in a good bundle of wood she's pretty sure to give me a plentiful portion. Oh, my dear fellow, you should just smell that khichdi." At this the bear's mouth began to water, for like all bears he was a dreadful glutton. "Do you think your wife would give me some too if I brought her a bundle of wood?" he asked anxiously. "Perhaps, if it's a very big load," answered the woodman craftily. "Would 400 weight be enough?" asked the bear. I'm afraid not, returned the woodman, shaking his head. You see, khichdi is an expensive dish to make. There's rice in it, and plenty of butter and pulse, and would 800 weight do? Say half a ton, and it's a bargain, quoth the woodman. Half a ton is a large quantity, sighed the bear. There's saffron in the khichdi, remarked the woodman casually. The bear licked his lips, and his little eyes twinkled with greed and delight. Well, it's a bargain. Go home sharp and tell your wife to keep the khichdi hot. I'll be with you in a trice. Away went the woodman in great glee to tell his wife how the bear had agreed to bring half a ton of wood in return for a share of the khichdi. Now, the wife could not help allowing that her husband had made a good bargain, but being by nature a grumbler, she was determined not to be pleased, so she began to scold the old man for not having settled exactly the share the bear was to have. For, said she, he will gobble up the potful before we've finished our first helping. On this the woodman became quite pale. In that case, he said, we had better begin now and have a fair start. So without more ado they squatted down on the floor with the brass pot full of khichdi between them and began to eat as fast as they could. Remember to leave some for the bear, wife, said the woodman, speaking with his mouth crammed full. Certainly, she replied, helping herself to another handful. My dear, cried the old woman in her turn, with her mouth so full she could hardly speak, remember the poor bear. Certainly, my love, returned the old man, taking another mouthful. So it went on till there was not a single grain left in the pot. What's to be done now, said the woodman. It's all your fault, wife, for eating so much. My fault, retorted his wife scornfully. Why, you ate twice as much as I did. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. Men always eat more than women. No, they don't. Yes, they do. Well, it's no use quarreling about it now, said the woodman. The khichdi's gone, and the bear will be furious. That wouldn't matter much if we could get the wood, said the greedy old woman. I'll tell you what we must do. We must lock up everything there is to eat in the house, leave the khichdi pot by the fire, and hide in the garret. When the bear comes, he will think we've gone out and left his dinner for him. Then he will throw down his bundle and come in. Of course, he will rampage a little when he finds the pot is empty, but he can't do much mischief, and I don't think he will take the trouble of carrying the wood away. So they made haste to lock up all the food and hide themselves in the garret. Meanwhile, the bear had been toiling and moiling away at his bundle of wood, which took him much longer to collect than he expected. However, at last he arrived, quite exhausted, at the woodcutter's cottage. Seeing the brass khichdi pot by the fire, he threw down his load and went in, and then, mercy, wasn't he angry when he found nothing in it, not even a grain of rice, nor a tiny wee bit of pulse, but only a smell that was so uncommonly nice that he actually cried with rage and disappointment. He flew into the most dreadful temper, but though he turned the house topsy-turvy, he could not find a morsel of food. Finally, he declared he would take the wood away again, but as the crafty old woman had imagined, when he came to the task he did not care, even for the sake of revenge, to carry so heavy a burden. I won't go away empty-handed, said he to himself, seizing the khichdi pot. If I can't get the taste, I'll have the smell. Now, as he left the cottage, he caught sight of the beautiful golden pears hanging over into the yard. His mouth began to water at once, for he was desperately hungry, and the pears were the best of the season. In a trice he was up on the wall, up the tree, and gathering the biggest and ripest one he could find. He was just putting it in his mouth when a thought struck him. If I take these pears home, I shall be able to sell them for ever so much to the other bears, and then with the money I shall be able to buy some khichdi. Ha, ha! I shall have the best of the bargain after all. So saying, he began to gather the ripe pears as fast as he could and put them in the khichdi pot. But whenever he came to an unripe one, he would shake his head and say, no one would buy that. Yet it is a pity to waste it. So he would pop it into his mouth and eat it, making wry faces if it was very sour. Now all this time the woodman's wife had been watching the bear through a crevice and holding her breath for fear of discovery. But at last, what with being asthmatic and having a cold in her head, she could hold it no longer, and just as the Khichri pot was quite full of golden ripe pears, out she came with the most tremendous sneeze you ever heard. Ah! The bear, thinking someone had fired a gun at him, dropped the Khichri pot into the cottage yard and fled into the forest as fast as his legs would carry him. So the woodman and his wife got the Khichri, the wood, and the coveted pears, but the poor bear got nothing but a very bad stomachache from eating unripe fruit.
It's that time of the day. You know what time it is. It's nature time! And today we're going to talk about, yes, that's right, we're going to talk about the bear. What do you call a wet bear? A drizzly bear. What do you call a bear with no teeth? A gummy bear. Oh, well, nature time is about to start. Please bear with me. All bears, except for polar bears and giant pandas, are omnivores. Do you know what an omnivore is? An omnivore is someone who eats both meat and plants. Their diets depend on where they live. Brown bears, black bears, and polar bears hibernate in the winter for about 100 days. They make dens or shelters in caves, logs, the sides of hills, and in ice banks. Except for mother bears with their cubs, bears are solitary animals, meaning that they live alone. Bears are territorial, meaning that they will fight other bears in order to protect and keep their own land. Bears will find food, shelter, and mates in this territory. All bears have an excellent sense of smell, allowing them to sniff out food, mates, and their cubs. Most bears have 2 layers of fur. One layer is short and close to the skin to keep them warm. The outer, longer layer is to keep them dry while swimming. Polar bears and giant pandas are born with a thin layer of fur, while all other types of bears are born with no fur at all. Though bears are large animals, they can run very fast, reaching speeds of up to 35 miles an hour, which is about probably 50 kilometers an hour. That's pretty fast. So, be a bit careful when you're in the woods. We don't have bears here in New Zealand, so we don't have to worry too much about that. Let's play some music by Nancy Stewart of nancymusic.com.
when the stars are out, there are nocturnal animals all about. Ooh, ooh, what do I see? A wise old owl looking at me. On a moonlit night when the stars are out, there are nocturnal animals all about. Meow, meow, what do I see? A big black cat just looking at me. On a moonlit night when the stars are out, there are nocturnal animals all about. What do I see? A little bat just looking at me. On a moonlit night when the stars are out, there are nocturnal animals all about. Ribbit, ribbit, what do I see? A big green tree frog looking at me. On a moonlit night when the stars are out, there are nocturnal animals all about. Squeak, 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 what do I see? A garden dormouse looking at me. Salmon living in the ocean know when it's time to go home. So they swim up the river to lay their eggs back in the place where they were born. Salmon hatch from their eggs in the gravel, grow and travel downstream, over the rocks and down the river to find the place where it meets the sea. Salmon living in the ocean know when it's time to go home. So they swim up the river to lay their eggs back in the place where they were born. Back in the place where they were born.
I'm going to play you another story. And this is another story about a bear. Why the bear has a short tail.
Why the bear has a short tail. One cold morning when the fox was coming up the road with some fish, he met the bear. "Good morning, Mr. Fox," said the bear. "Good morning, Mr. Bear," said the fox. "The morning is brighter because I have met you." "Those are very good fish, Mr. Fox," said the bear. "I have not eaten such fish for many a day. Where do you find them?" "I've been fishing, Mr. Bear," answered the fox. "If I could catch such fish as those, I should like to go fishing, but I do not know how to fish." "It would be very easy for you to learn, Mr. Bear," said the fox. "You are so big and strong that you can do anything." "Will you teach me, Mr. Fox?" asked the bear. "I would not tell everybody, but you are such a good friend that I will teach you. Come to this pond, and I will show you how to fish through the ice." So the fox and the bear went to the frozen pond, and the fox showed the bear how to make a hole in the ice. "That is easy for you," said the fox, "but many an animal could not have made that hole. Now comes the secret. You must put your tail down into the water and keep it there. That is not easy, and not every animal could do it, for the water is very cold. But you are a learned animal, Mr. Bear, and you know that the secret of catching fish is to keep your tail in the water a long time. Then when you pull it up, you will pull with it as many fish as I have." The bear put his tail down into the water, and the fox went away. The sun rose high in the heavens, and still the bear sat with his tail through the hole in the ice. Sunset came, but still the bear sat with his tail through the hole in the ice. for he thought, when an animal is really learned, he will not fear a little cold. It began to be dark, and the bear said, "Now I will pull the fish out of the water. How good they will be!" He pulled and pulled, but not a fish came out. Worse than that, not all of his tail came out, for the end of it was frozen fast to the ice. He went slowly down the road, growling angrily. I wish I could find that fox, but the cunning fox was curled up in his warm nest, and whenever he thought of the bear, he laughed.
Well, it's been a very good show today. This first half hour of the Secret Kindergarten, we have done a lot about bears. And isn't it funny? We've done a lot about fish too, because we've been doing a lot about bears. Did you hear in the first story? The woodsman was making kedgeree. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's a dish that's got fish in it. And I think that's why the bear was there and he really wanted to eat some. Then we had the salmon. We had the salmon song. We know bears like to eat salmon. This is making me hungry, this episode. And then we learnt why the bear has a short tail. Because the naughty fox taught him a silly way how to fish. So when I think of bears, I think of rivers and I think of fishies in the river. Right, to finish up this first half hour of the Secret Kindergarten radio show, let's play a game. This one's called Zip Up. Now, you know the score. We're going to pretend. We're going to pretend we have a zipper running up and down our bodies, from our belly button all the way up to our chins, kind of like a jacket zipper. And it's going to help us sit up straight or stand up tall if you want to stand up, okay? I'm going to sit up straight so I can be near the microphone. Okay. Right, here we go. Are you ready? Without touching your body, I'm going to put one hand in front of your belly button and the other hand behind you at your lower back. Okay? And now, we're going to zip ourselves up. There's a zip in front of us and a zip behind us. Okay, ready? Let's zip ourselves up. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Zip. Whoa, I'm up so straight. I think I've been slouching all morning. I can really feel that. Okay, now we're all zipped up. Wow, my shoulders are all the way back. Okay, we're going to take a few breaths. Ready? Let's breathe in. And out. And in. And out. Okay, let's go again. And in. And out. Okay. How about we unzip? Let's unzip. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Go all the way up to the top and unzip. Zip. Oh, I'm back in my usual slouchy computer position. Okay, I don't like it. I want to zip back up. Let's go. We're going to zip ourselves back up. Belly button, lower back. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Zip. Oh, I feel really confident and happy and powerful. Let's do a big deep breath in. And out. And in. And out. Okay, one more. Breathe in. And out. Boy, it feels good to be zipped up. It actually feels good. And that's that. Thank you for tuning in to the Secret Kindergarten radio show. I love you. And we'll see you at the next one.